One of the first things to note when taking the phone out is how sleek a form factor the phone is. It's very comfortable to hold, a decent size, and importantly very smart looking. Despite not being a premium material body, it certainly has the look of a well-built phone. On the back you'll see a camera array with the 50 megapixel AI main camera, a 13 megapixel front facing camera, volume rocker to the right side with the power button and fingerprint reader built in just underneath that. You've got dual speakers and a charging port. All this in a body thickness of just 8.09mm and weighing a very light 179 grams. One of the biggest standout features for this very affordable phone though is the 90MHz FHD Plus AMOLED dot display. The screen comes in at 6.43 inches in size and uses AMOLED technology to not only deliver deep blacks but vibrant colours too. You also get the DCI P3 wide colour gamut, 1000 nits of brightness and a 4.5 million to 1 contrast ratio for really sharp images. The 6.43 inch display takes up the front of the phone and allows for great immersion into the content you consume. Using the Redmi Note 11 for the last 3 weeks, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching not only YouTube on the go but also apps like Netflix and Amazon Prime. Content just looks really good. On the right side of the phone, the power button not only turns the phone on and off, but also houses a very accurate and responsive fingerprint reader too. It's surprisingly fast and gets me on the home screen instantly. At the top and bottom of the Redmi Note 11 we have the dual speaker setup, and from someone who enjoys listening to music, the speakers do not disappoint. I've listened to many tracks on YouTube Music while getting ready to go out or even just playing in the background while I write up reviews. The sound quality is good and I have no complaints. Not only do we have the dual speaker setup, but there's also a headphone jack too, so dust off those wired headphones because they have some use once more. At the bottom of the phone we have the microphone and USB-C port for data transfer and the 33 watt Pro fast charging. This will charge up the 5000 mAh battery in around 61 minutes, depending on what you're doing with the phone. The back of the phone has a matte finish and does feel somewhat slippery, but no more than any other phone out there. I'd say most people use a case and this shouldn't be an issue for the average consumer. One thing to note is if you're buying this wallet friendly phone and think you'll be getting cheap and cheerful, think again. The camera setup does deliver on the photography side, and the 50 megapixel main camera really shines through when it comes to capturing those important memories. The quality is decent and the image is sharp. Some images were a little washed out, but this was dependent on the lighting that was available at the time. There's an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens for capturing all of the scene, but also a 2 megapixel depth camera. Combined you'll have the smartphone that's capable of capturing all the moments, including the little ones, thanks to the 2 megapixel macro camera that's also amongst the very slim camera bump. While the camera setup does do well in outdoor or well lit conditions, low light and indoor shots with minimal light can look a little grainy, and this would be my only criticism when it comes to the camera's quality. For me personally, I don't tend to take many indoor photos during night time or low light hours, so this isn't really an issue for me, but if you were hoping to take some shots on a night out for example, this could be an issue for you. With the selfie camera you get a 13 megapixel sensor which again performs really well in well lit areas. The images look sharp and I can't complain at the quality, but again, if you're planning on taking selfies in low light, just bear in mind this may not be the best, but it's also not the worst I've seen. The selfie camera will be good enough when used for video calling on Google Duo, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger and all those other video calling apps that you can choose from. I've added some photos that I've taken on the Redmi Note 11 with each lens on my website at kevinwebb.co.uk, where you can read the full review of my thoughts. There's a gallery there with some of the shots from the 50 megapixel main camera, the ultra wide and macro. Like many smartphones, the Redmi Note 11 has many camera features including Pro Mode, Video, Photo and Portrait, as well as Night Mode, Short Video, Panorama, Document, Slow Motion and Time Lapse. You can customize the settings to a degree and tweak the settings for your own personal use, but for the average consumer the default point and shoot system will be good enough and you'll get some great shots without the need to change anything. Video recording is decent enough for a smartphone at this price point, though you will only get 720p at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 30 frames per second. There's no 4K video recording unfortunately, but it's not a huge loss as most content is still consumed in 1080p. Overall the cameras are impressive, and considering the phone costs only just $179, you're getting a pretty good setup for what it is. The Redmi Note 11 is currently running Android 11 and with Xiaomi's MIUI 13 0.9. And while most skins can feel sluggish, the Redmi Note 11 seems to be fairly smooth. I really like the style and design of MIUI compared to some other big brand phones out there. There's a lot of customization to be had on this phone and visually one of the best to navigate. The only thing that threw me was closing of apps. With MIUI 13, you bring up the opened apps by swiping halfway up the screen, which is obviously normal, and then you have to swipe left to close an open app. Alternatively, you can close all the apps with a single button press, and I guess it comes down to what you're used to. But of course, I quickly got used to this way of closing apps, so it's not a deal breaker. You get some pre-installed Xiaomi apps which can't be removed, but many of them do have a purpose and some are very handy to have. MIUI won't be for everyone, but this latest version, MIUI 13, is an overall better experience and easily one of my favourites to use compared to other brand skins. Now, performance is near perfect for a phone at this price point. It's running a 6nm Snapdragon 680, and while not the fastest processor out there, it handles everything with ease and didn't have any slowdowns or hiccups. And this to me proves you don't have to have the latest and greatest to get good performance. The phone I have had to review had 4GB of RAM and 64GB storage, which was plenty for me and my time with the phone. I used many different apps where the octa-core CPU handled everything with ease. Playing games via the Play Store was smooth and performance was great. As an avid gamer, I also used my GameSir controller and fired up some cloud gaming with Google Stadia. Of course, this is cloud gaming, so the phone handled some AAA Cyberpunk 2077 like a pro and was looking fantastic on the AMOLED display. The battery included is 5000 mAh in capacity, which is quite nice to have in such a budget-friendly phone. Even some flagship phones out there don't get 5000 mAh batteries, so having this battery capacity on the Redmi Note 11 was a nice addition. And in terms of an all-day battery life, yes, it definitely lasted. I was getting at least a day out of the Redmi Note 11 and then some. A bit less than a day if I played some games on the go, but as I mentioned earlier, this phone has a 33W Pro fast charging, and I was never really without a fully charged phone for long. It's also worth mentioning that you don't get wireless charging with the Redmi Note 11, but to be honest, this is not something I missed. I'm perfectly happy with charging the phone with a fast charging cable and seeing that battery life replenish in no time at all. The Redmi Note 11 comes with support for 2G, 3G and 4G, but no 5G on this phone I have. While 5G would be nice, it's not an issue for me, because where I live, 5G is still concentrated around a newly built business park. Otherwise, 4G is still the dominant connectivity for me, and I can imagine this is still the case for a lot of people. Of course, you do get your usual GPS, Bluetooth, NFC and Wi-Fi as standard. And my conclusion overall, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 11 is easily and by far one of the best budget smartphones out there right now. And with its great performance, incredible display and camera setup, this could be the perfect first phone for many, or for those wanting a decent spec phone for social media and video content. At £179, you're getting one of Xiaomi's best budget smartphones that certainly don't skimp on the specs. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.